Hold Me Inc. was established in 2003 in the Syracuse area to lend support to hard of hearing and deaf children. Before 2003, there were no ongoing after-school programs for children that were hard of hearing or deaf. They also provide services in the way they send sign language people to doctor's appointments. 93% of the kids that are born hard of hearing or deaf, parents hear normally, so they provide classes on sign language for their families, which I think is really important.
Very nice. Meredith.
Show you DFA'd Chris Carter
Yeah.
for the second time. Just can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's hard. It just hasn't worked out, you know. And he's had opportunities. He gave a good effort, you know. Every day he came to work and tried to get better. It just didn't work out. So we felt it was probably time to go in another direction. So G-Man is here, and we'll get some opportunities.
With him, what do you like about Choi?
Well, he's been swinging the bat really well in AAA. He's been in the big leagues before. We had him in spring training. He understands the landscape somewhat of our team. He's not played in New York before, but there's a lot of guys who haven't. But he's been swinging the bat well in AAA.
When Carter was DFA'd the first time, you talked about how it was a difficult conversation to have. Second time, make it any easier?
No. It's probably even more difficult the second time because it was so shortly after. And, you know, you're trying to giving him another opportunity to get going. And, again, it just didn't work out.
Do you have a lineup for today?
Yes, I do. Girardi, Judge, Sanchez, DH, Didi, Head, Els, Choi, Romine, catch, Tyler Wade at second.
Eric.
Joe, what did, because Choi didn't get a ton of time with you guys during spring training. We saw him late in games, things like that. What kind of attributes did you see out of him during the spring?
You know, he's a guy that obviously has been, you know, a guy that put together good at-bats. He didn't have a great spring with us, but he's really got it going in AAA. He tried to switch hit a little bit again in spring training, and he gave that up. But, I mean, he's a guy that expected to produce, and that's why he was signed by the Angels. He was a patient hitter, and that's why we went out and got him for some insurance purposes, and we're expecting him to produce.
Sweeney.
Joe, he hasn't typically shown a great deal of power.
No.
And that's one of the reasons that Chris Carter's no longer here. He didn't show you any of his power, really. I mean, are you expecting Choi to do anything in that regard? Well,
I mean, he has some power. I mean, we're not expecting a 40 home run guy. I mean, but we're expecting good at bats and to drive in runs and do those type of things.
Randy and Wally.
Last year, Choi did not hit against left-handed pitching much. He did in the minors this year. Do you expect him to be the everyday guy, or you use Romaine against the left-handed?
You know, there's a chance that I'll use Romine against some left-handed starters to put him at first if it kind of works out that way, yes.
Joe, I think he's going to be the 10th guy that's played first base for you this year, obviously.
That's it?
That was only 10 so far, but you're only halfway through.
I'm not so sure I could name all 10.
I wrote them down. I can name them for you. But, look, I know this is not the way you planned it, but do you expect at some point this season you will finally get an everyday first baseman that you can send out there just about every day?
Well, I think your hope is that you can, you know, have a guy that you can send out there every day. If you don't, you know, if it's a platoon situation, whatever it is, you got to deal with it. But I think your hope is that you have that at every position. And basically that you have an everyday guy that you can send out there. So time will tell. Choi's going to get his chances, and time will tell.
When will we know better on, like, what's going to happen with Bird?
Well, you know, because it is a holiday week, I think he has an appointment again on Monday, so not until sometime during the break, I'm sure.
Sweeney.
based on where we are in the calendar and July 31st coming up, do you have to assume that it's either what you have with Choi or you're going to have to get something else before then because of Bird's timeline?
Yeah, I'm not so sure when Bird's going to come. I don't think any of us know when his timeline is. So, I mean, I think it's unfair to even speculate on that because I think all of us thought that he would have been back by now, and that is not the case. So, yeah, to me, I look at it it's what we have in house, and you go from there.
Ron, do you have a question?
I just changed my mind. You know, the landscape changed a little bit, so I changed my mind.
George.
Castro doing anything that he
He'll
wasn't on
run
the road trip?
again. He'll take some swings. I think just in the cage, George. I'm not sure if it's on the field yet today. He'll take some grounders, and is continuing to progress fine.